The world isn't fair. And the sooner you accept that brutal truth, the sooner you stop being its victim. Right now, as you're watching this, someone far less intelligent than you commands more respect. Someone weaker holds more influence. Someone with fewer skills is living the life you want because they understand something you were never taught: the dark psychology of human nature. You've been programmed to play by rules that others stopped following long ago. You've been conditioned to be nice while others are being strategic. You've been told to wait for respect while others are taking it. The game isn't broken, it's designed that way. It's rigged against the naive, against those who believe fairness exists, against those who think good intentions matter more than psychological dominance. 500 years ago, Niccolo Machiavelli exposed the real mechanics of power. He revealed why good men finish last and why ruthless strategists rise to the top. Today, I'm going to share 8 dark psychological principles that will transform you from overlooked to unstoppable, from invisible to untouchable. But understand this: once you see the matrix of human psychology, you can never unsee it. Once you grasp these truths, you'll never again be able to play the victim. I learned this the hard way. I used to be the quiet, hard-working one, the person who had all the right answers but was ignored. I watched confident fools rise above me. I saw manipulators build empires while honest people struggled to survive. I watched charismatic sociopaths attract followers while decent people ate alone. And then I realized the truth no one dares to admit. The world doesn't reward intelligence, it rewards influence. It doesn't respect goodness, it respects presence. It doesn't care about your heart, it cares about your control. That realization shattered my illusions, but it also set me free. Machiavelli lived in an age of betrayal, politics, and power plays. He witnessed how empires were built and destroyed by one single force: psychological mastery. Those who understood human nature ruled those who didn't. His lessons aren't relics of history. They are survival manuals for the modern world. Being ruthless doesn't mean being cruel. It means being strategically awake. It means understanding that while you're playing checkers with sincerity, others are playing chess with manipulation. So, before we go deeper, I want you to make a declaration. Write this in the comments: I refuse to be psychologically dominated by others. This isn't just a sentence, it's your first act of rebellion. Because everything that follows requires one radical transformation, from a victim mindset to a predator mindset. Are you ready to become dangerously confident? Let's begin. Number 1. Fairness is a psychological trap. Here's the first brutal truth. Fairness is a lie designed to keep you weak and compliant. Every time you wait for fair treatment, someone else is taking what you want. Every time you play by imaginary rules, others are busy rewriting the game to their advantage. Every time you expect reciprocity, manipulators are exploiting your predictability. You were trained to believe fairness equals nobility. In reality, it often equals prayer. Praying someone will finally do the right thing.
Look at your life. How many times did you give respect to someone who returned none? How many favors did you hand out that were never repaid? How many times did you wait your turn while others cut in front? This isn't bad luck, it's design. You've been psychologically conditioned to lose. Machiavelli put it bluntly: treat people either generously or decisively, because half measures breed revenge. This isn't a call to violence, it's a lesson in psychological warfare. Wound someone's ego lightly and they'll nurse it and plot. completely break their psychological foothold, and they accept their place and move on. Most people blunder with half measures, weak pushback against the aggressive, soft boundaries with predators, reason with the unreasonable. That creates the worst possible outcome. You look weak and you make enemies who see you as prey. So what does real psychological dominance look like? When someone disrespects you, you don't plead or argue, you act. You make it obvious through consequences and calibrated moves that disrespecting you costs them something valuable. You don't try to persuade those who don't value you. You change the incentives so treating you well becomes their smarter option. Stop being fair with people who aren't fair to you. Start being strategic with those who only understand power. Number 2. Ruthlessness is emotional discipline. Most people picture ruthlessness as rage and chaos. They're wrong. True ruthlessness is ice-cold emotional control. The ruthlessly effective don't explode. They calculate. They don't react. They choose. They don't decide from hurt or pride. They decide from what serves their interests. Why does this matter? Because emotional reactivity is a leash others can pull. If you lose your composure, you become predictable and exploitable. The psychologically dominant treat emotions like data, not directives. They notice anger, disappointment, shame, and then they ask, what response will damage the attacker's standing while elevating mine? Imagine someone publicly humiliates you. The reactive person snaps, argues, explains, and hands the attacker proof of control. The disciplined person observes the hit, feels the sting, then executes the chosen response. Maybe total silence that reveals the attacker as insignificant. Maybe a calm, factual correction that makes the attacker look foolish. Maybe a single, decisive move that resolves the issue forever. The response is intentional, not reflexive. Machiavelli warned that injuries administered decisively are less dangerous than injuries haltingly returned. When you must strike back psychologically, make it decisive and final, not messy and perpetual. Don't get dragged into endless drama. Don't waste your energy on emotional back and forth. Make one calculated move that ends the conflict permanently and in your favor. Think about the most psychologically powerful people you know. Do they lose their temper? Do they get baited into arguments? Do they let anyone dictate their emotions? Of course not. They maintain emotional sovereignty. They decide when and how to engage. Their responses are strategic, never impulsive. This is emotional discipline, and it's one of the highest forms of psychological power. When people realize they can't provoke or manipulate you, they begin to tread carefully. You gain an aura of control. They sense your restraint and respect it because they know it's not weakness, it's power in its purest form.
So master your emotions. Let others react while you respond with precision. Because once your reactions are no longer predictable, you become impossible to control. Number 3. Psychological dominance trumps likability. This truth will shatter everything you've been taught about being a good person. Being liked is overrated. Being respected is power. When people merely like you, they take liberties with your feelings. They assume you'll tolerate disrespect because you're nice. But when they respect your psychological strength, they hesitate because they know there will be consequences. Likeable people are safe, predictable, easy to manipulate. Everyone knows they won't push back. Psychologically dominant people are dangerous, calm, controlled, but never to be underestimated. They command respect because they've proven they can and will defend their boundaries. Look around your own life. Who holds the most influence? The nicest person or the one with the strongest presence? Who do others consult before making a move? The agreeable one or the one whose opinion really carries weight? Machiavelli was brutally honest. It is much safer to be feared than loved if one cannot be both. That doesn't mean becoming a tyrant. It means cultivating a reputation that blends fairness with formidability. People don't have to fear your cruelty, only the consequences of disrespect. Here's how it looks in practice. Likeable people say yes out of guilt. Dominant people say no without apology. Likeable people tolerate disrespect. Dominant people confront it decisively. Likeable people chase inclusion. Dominant people choose where they belong. Likeable people over-explain. Dominant people state their decision and move on. The shift from likability to dominance is a psychological evolution. You stop asking, "Will they like me if I do this?" and start asking, "Will this increase or decrease my power?" You stop fearing others' discomfort and start understanding that discomfort is leverage. You stop seeking approval, and you become the one whose approval others chase. This isn't about arrogance, it's about value alignment. You become someone whose respect must be earned, not freely given to those who don't deserve it. That's how you build true psychological dominance, not by demanding respect, but by consistently demonstrating your standards, your composure, and your boundaries. Let others compete for your approval, not the other way around. Number 4. Decisive action creates psychological superiority. This is where most people quietly destroy their own influence. They act often, but weakly. They issue threats they never enforce. They give warnings they never stand behind. Each time they do, they train others to ignore them. Their words lose weight, their presence loses power, and their authority dissolves into noise. Psychologically weak people try to control outcomes through nagging, guilt, or emotional pleas. But every unfulfilled threat, every hollow warning chips away at their credibility. Eventually, everyone around them knows they won't actually do anything. They become background noise. Psychologically dominant people, on the other hand, operate with precision. They speak less, but when they act, the effect is unmistakable. Machiavelli captured this perfectly. If an injury is to be done, it should be so severe that one need not fear retaliation. In psychological terms, that means when you must assert your power, do it so decisively that no one dares test you twice.
Here's an example. Imagine someone in your circle constantly undermines you, interrupting, mocking, or dismissing your ideas. The weak response is to keep asking them to stop, to complain privately, or to sulk. All that does is prove they can control your emotions without consequence. The dominant response? You act once, sharply, decisively, and publicly if necessary. Maybe you call out the behavior in front of others, forcing accountability. Maybe you exclude them from something they value. Maybe you turn social momentum against them so they feel the sting of their own disrespect. Whatever form it takes, the move is final, not petty, but powerful. Your response should be stronger than any single act of disrespect, but exactly proportional to the pattern of behavior that led up to it. That's what creates psychological impact. Others witness it and think twice before testing you. You become known as someone who doesn't bluff. You don't threaten, you act. This principle applies everywhere. Instead of constantly convincing people of your worth, you demonstrate it once, powerfully. Instead of being endlessly available, you create scarcity that reminds people how much they need you. Instead of arguing your position, you take action that makes your position undeniable. Fewer threats, stronger follow-through. Build a reputation for decisive action, not empty talk. Number 5. Perception management is reality control. This is the highest form of psychological warfare. understanding that perception outweighs truth. Most people waste their lives trying to be good, assuming the world will eventually notice. It won't. People rarely look beyond surface signals. They respond to what they see, not what's real. If you don't control your image, someone else will, and they'll shape it to serve their interests, not yours. Machiavelli warned us, everyone sees what you appear to be. Few know what you really are. For most people you encounter, appearance is reality. Your reputation is your identity. Your perceived value is your actual value in their minds. The truly powerful understand this and use it. They engineer perception as carefully as a general plans a campaign. They understand that in a world ruled by impressions, managing what people think of you is the ultimate form of control. Psychologically sophisticated people understand this and engineer their image with intention. They take control of the story about who they are before anyone else has the chance to define it for them. This isn't about being fake. It's about being strategic, deliberately shaping how your genuine qualities are perceived. Look at social media. Two people achieve the same result. One documents it skillfully, framing their success to signal competence and authority. The other stays silent, hoping their work will speak for itself. It rarely does. The one who manages perception gains recognition, opportunities, and respect, not because they're better, but because they're seen as better. The same principle applies face-to-face. Before you ever speak, people are reading you. Your body language, tone, wardrobe, and presence communicate your value instantly. Walk into a room with confident posture, calm eye contact, and controlled voice, people unconsciously categorize you as someone important. Walk in slouched, avoiding attention, mumbling your words, you've already told them you're not.
The rule is simple. People treat you according to how you train them to see you. Here's how to manage perception in practice. Share your wins strategically. Let people see your progress, not your struggle. Downplay failures, and when you mention them, frame them as lessons. Associate yourself with high-value people and environments. Proximity upgrades perception. Maintain some mystery. The less people know, the more they imagine, and imagination often works in your favor. Project confidence, even when uncertain. Confidence inspires trust, while insecurity repels it. Your reputation is your most valuable currency. Protect it like treasure. Cultivate it like an asset. Leverage it like a weapon. Number 6. Narrative control is psychological warfare. This is the highest level of Machiavellian influence, controlling not just what happens, but how what happens is interpreted, remembered, and retold. Every situation is a story waiting to be framed. The same action can be painted as leadership or arrogance, confidence or ego, strength or aggression. The person who defines the narrative defines the truth. Most people obsess over their actions, but ignore the story that follows them, a fatal mistake. In human psychology, perception outweighs fact. Think about any conflict you've seen. The one who tells their version first, clearly and confidently, often wins, regardless of who was objectively right. Machiavelli warned, men in general judge more from appearances than from reality. People don't have time to uncover the full truth. They believe the story that sounds coherent and comes from a trusted source. So whoever shapes that story wins the mind of the crowd. You must become skilled at framing. When you succeed, frame your victory as a result of vision, not luck. When you fail, frame your loss as a calculated experiment, not a defeat. When others attack you, frame their attack as proof of your rising influence. That's narrative warfare, transforming perception into protection, and every outcome into an advantage. When you achieve something meaningful,
Learn to tell the story strategically. Don't frame your success as luck or natural talent. Frame it as the result of foresight, calculation, and self-mastery. For example, imagine you cut off a toxic friend who's been draining your energy. They'll likely spin their version. You abandoned me when I needed you most. If you stay silent, people may see you as cold or selfish. But if you take control of the narrative, I had to set boundaries with someone who refused to respect mutual effort and basic respect, the perception shifts entirely. You go from being heartless to being self-respecting. The same action, but two completely different interpretations. That's the power of narrative control. Advanced narrative control means anticipating how others will interpret your actions and getting ahead of them. Never let your reputation be shaped by gossip or misinterpretation. Shape it yourself. Every decision you make should consider not just what you're doing, but how it will be perceived and repeated. Machiavelli understood that perception often outweighs truth. Power lies not only in what you do, but in how others understand what you've done. Now, let's move to the next level. Systematic consequences create psychological authority. The most powerful people don't need to raise their voices, make threats, or beg for respect. They build systems. Quiet, predictable systems where respect brings access and disrespect leads to exclusion. This is psychological mastery. It removes your emotions from the equation. People can argue with your words, but they can't argue with your structure.
When your boundaries operate like a system, you become untouchable. If someone wastes your time, you stop being available. If someone abuses your generosity, you stop offering it. If someone disrespects you, you don't fight for their understanding. You remove their privileges. This is what Machiavelli meant when he said a wise ruler relies only on what's within his control, never on what's in the control of others. Here's a simple example. Suppose your friends always expect you to plan events, but they cancel last minute or show up late. The emotional approach would be to complain, guilt trip, or argue. The strategic approach: you stop planning. You make yourself unavailable. You allow the system, not your emotions, to correct the behavior. People quickly learn that reliability grants access and inconsistency leads to exclusion. You never needed to fight for respect. You simply created a world where your boundaries enforced it for you. The systematically authoritative approach works differently. You don't beg for respect. You create a structure that makes respect the only logical choice. For example, you plan activities only for people who confirm and show up on time. If someone repeatedly cancels or arrives late, you quietly stop including them. No threats, no emotional speeches, just cause and effect. Those who value your effort receive more of it. Those who waste it naturally lose access. This approach builds psychological authority because it teaches people to adjust their behavior to maintain your presence. They can't argue with the system. It's not personal, it's principle. The beauty of this method is that it sustains itself. You don't need to constantly remind people of your standards or enforce boundaries through emotion. The system does it for you. By linking behavior directly to access, you create a self-regulating environment where others learn how to treat you without confrontation. Let natural consequences do the teaching. Build systems where your energy flows only towards those who've earned it, and the rest simply remove themselves. Now, number 8. Silent dominance is the highest form of power. True psychological dominance doesn't shout, it whispers through results. The ones who constantly talk about being tough, clever, or ruthless rarely are. They're compensating. Real power doesn't need validation because it's already felt. It moves quietly, shaping events from the background. The most dangerous person in any room is rarely the loudest. It's the one observing everything while revealing nothing. They're reading patterns while others seek attention. They're positioning while others are performing. Think about the most quietly powerful people you've met. They don't brag, threaten, or explain.
Their authority is assumed, their influence is seen through outcomes, and their dominance is felt through energy alone. Machiavelli understood this balance perfectly when he wrote, "The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must be both a fox and a lion. You must be cunning enough to see traps before they're set and strong enough to strike when the time comes, all while concealing your transitions." In practice, silent dominance means your competitors never see your moves until they've already lost position. Your allies benefit from your strategy without realizing how you orchestrated it. Your enemies don't notice your influence until it's too late to resist. You collect information without revealing your intentions. You form alliances that serve your objectives without broadcasting your motives. You dismantle threats without ever being named as the cause.
This isn't deception, it's strategic discretion. You're not hiding out of fear, you're withholding out of power. The less others understand your methods, the more untouchable you become. When people feel your influence but can't trace its source, your authority feels inevitable, not forced. So build your psychological empire in silence. Let others crave recognition while you accumulate results. Let them make noise while you make moves. Power demonstrated through results will always eclipse power announced through words. Here's the final, unvarnished truth, the one that separates those who are controlled from those who are dangerously confident. If you don't master the dark psychology of influence, someone who has will control your life. This isn't theory or debate. This is psychological warfare happening around you right now. While you've been learning these principles, someone else is using them against those who don't. Manipulative people are exploiting fairness. Psychologically dominant individuals are rising above those who still think good intentions matter more than strategy. The choice is stark and brutal. Either become someone who understands and wields psychological influence, or remain someone who is influenced and used. You've been conditioned to believe that mastering these principles makes you bad. That's exactly what the powerful want you to think. They want you predictable, naive, and manipulatable, while they move with clarity, control, and cunning. Every day you delay applying these lessons is another day someone more ruthless builds the respect and influence you desire. Every day you choose niceness over strategic strength, you hand ammunition to those who see kindness as weakness. The world doesn't need more nice guys who finish last. It needs people who understand reality, master it, and use it to build unshakable influence and confidence. If these truths have sparked something inside you, if you're done being psychologically dominated, prove it. Like this video to declare that you're ready to stop being naive. Share it with someone who needs to understand that niceness without strategy is just weakness with good intentions. Subscribe, because this is only the beginning of your transformation, from overlooked to impossible to ignore. Remember what you declared in the comments. I refuse to be psychologically dominated by others. Now stop refusing. Start dominating. The choice is yours, but choose fast, because while you hesitate, the truly dangerous people around you are already deciding exactly what to do with you.